guys, we've got a fantastic episode of the Walleye Files for you this week. I can't talk. Holy crap. That's been 9 seconds, and I just off the edge. We've got a fantastic episode of the Walleye Files for you this week. Mike Gofron, 2-time PWT Angler of the Year, 2-time PWT Top Gun winner, PWT champion, 37 top 10s in the PWT. He is a freshwater fishing Hall of Famer, and somebody that I would put on my fishing Mount Rushmore. He is an incredible angler. He's a great person, and super exciting for me to have him on this podcast. It is very special to me. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I appreciate every single one of you. It has been an incredible ride. We are about to be at the 1-year mark of the Walleye Files. We're over 1.3 million views. We are over 2,000 followers on Facebook. We're over 1,000 followers on TikTok. We're almost at 500 followers on YouTube. We are ready to do a giveaway any day now. I will probably come out with that before this is actually out. But my goodness, I just want to say thank you to everybody. All the sponsors of the Walleye Files. We've got Thunderhook Fly Ins, Striker Brands, Lake Effect Lures, Image 360 and Crown Trophy out of Oshkosh, the amazing people there, Walleye Nation Creations, Bellevue Spice Company, all the support from all the companies, all the people. It is just very, very special. My cup is incredibly full, and I can't thank you guys all enough. I hope you guys enjoy this episode of this podcast as much as I did, because getting to sit down with one of the best walleye anglers on the planet is special. And you know, you're going to get a little peek into why he's one of the best. So sit back, enjoy a beer, enjoy your coffee, whatever you're doing. Enjoy your day. More importantly, enjoy your day. Hopefully this cold or Midwestern weather gets a little warmer by the time we're airing this. And Mike Gofron. Thanks, guys. This episode of the Walleye Files is presented by Image 360 Inc. and Crown Trophy of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. For over 30 years, Image 360 and Crown Trophy have been Oshkosh's go-to for signs, vehicle graphics, custom apparel, and awards. Proudly serving northeastern Wisconsin with quality that speaks volumes. Your brand deserves to stand out. Let's make it unforgettable. Need signs that pop, graphics that roar, and branded apparel that turns heads? Image 360 and Crown Trophy in Oshkosh have been rocking northeastern Wisconsin for 30 years. From bold branding to epic awards, we bring your vision to life. Let's go. Love Image 360 and Crown Trophy. All right, guys, we've got PWT champion and Top Gun winner Mike Gofron with us. Mr. Gofron, how have you been?
Good.
It's
a little chilly
yeah.
this winter.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's great to see you. We tried to do this about a year ago. We had some camera issues, some other issues, but we are good to go now. I am super excited to have you on. It is an honor, and I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's
great to talk walleye fishing, especially when you're looking at snow on the ground out there.
It's definitely cold enough. And you know, we're only like 9 weeks away from the National Walleye Tour season starting. So yeah, it's definitely fun to talk walleye fishing with all this snow and all the cold.
Oh yeah.
So let's just jump right in. Your career is impressive, Mike. And we've had plenty of really great fishermen on this podcast. We've talked with Jason Shakir and Tom Wynn and Mark Martin, and we've had some exceptional anglers on here, but I feel like your career stands out above most of the others. I just think the span you had from 1998 to like 2007, 2008 was pretty unmatched. What was it like winning that first championship in 2001 and really just kicking things off before that even?
You know, it was just a lot of time on the water, and back then time on the water was just a matter of eliminating areas so it's not in the back of your head where, hey, I got to go check this out because I didn't check it enough or I heard something about it. So it was just putting grindstone in it out. I mean, just staying out in the water till almost dark sometimes, And yeah, it's past tournament hours and stuff, but you're still learning the structure and you're still kind of learning what kind of fish are in that area and why are they there? Where are they coming from? Are they coming from the deep? Are they hanging out in the shallows all day and evening time or what? Just it's just learning more about the body of water. And it was cool to go to a new body of water because it was new. And one of my favorite bodies of water is the Missouri River because every time you go back there, it's different. And it was always a drive to find different areas, new areas, rather than going back to like a Lake Erie or Saginaw Bay or something like that, where the depth doesn't really change too much and the structure doesn't change. You're always looking for new structure or new areas where to catch fish, but that Missouri River really is a cool spot to go to.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we started. The National Walleye Tour is going to Oahe and Sakakawea, and I'm definitely looking forward to both of those events. Those are kind of wild. The Oahe event's kind of the wild card out of the four this year. It's not a great lake. It's huge. It's a big body of water, but it is a place that is constantly changing.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I always look forward to going out there out west. It's beautiful out there. I have a hunting shack out in North Dakota for ducks, and so I spend close to a month or maybe 2 months out there. I don't know in the fall, but it's great out there.
Tell me about that first championship in 2021, or 2001. Sorry, 2021, yep. 2001. It was kind of not a controversial, but just a tough time, just because of the timing of that championship. There were a lot of emotions involved.
Yep, there was.
If you want to start from start to finish in that championship, just talk about it.
Yeah, we were fishing out, and obviously we were pre-fishing, and back then they only allowed us so many days on the water, and then it was kind of eerie because we were out on the water, the reservoir there, and there was like no planes, and just like it was silent, and there wasn't much wind that day where we were at, and all of a sudden boats started running around to other boats, and like, hey, this happened. We're like in disbelief. So we kind of, I got like weak at the knees and, like what's going on? And so we had gone in, and most of the guys went in too, just to see the TVs and, what was going on. So, and then we kind of were like, are we even going to have this tournament? Because we got to get home to our families, after they rammed those airplanes into the towers. But we discussed it. We had a big meeting at the PWT there, and the guys go, this is what they want us to do. They want us to not stop us right now from what we're planning on doing. And so we didn't. We went ahead, obviously, with the tournament, and it was a very emotional tournament for everybody. It was very humbling how fortunate we were to be able to go out and compete, and all the poor people that passed away in 9/11, trying to save other people. And that was a heck of a day as far as emotions, that's for sure. And after I won the tournament too. But
what was your bite like going into that tournament? Were you on a bite where you looked around and said, I have winning fish?
I found, matter of fact, we went back there, I think it was 2 years later, and I was fishing about 18 feet of water. And there again, the water dropped 18 plus feet. And the 2 years later, when I went back, the camera boat was with me during practice, and we went back to the identical spot, the GPS, where I had won the tournament, and it was 2 feet out of the water, and I was fishing 18 feet. So, and I said there was snags down there. It felt like little stumps and stuff. That's what I described my spot, and it was the main river channel went down, and then there was a definite cut in to a creek arm, where it was like where you would have kind of silt build up from years and years ago, I don't know, 100 years ago, where the trees were growing. And there's these little stumps that are like this big. I know that for a fact because I saw them, 2 years later. And I thought that's what it was just kind of timber laying down there. But these fish were hanging in there. And at the time, I was just using regular round-headed jigs. chartreuse. Everybody likes chartreuse. About quarter ounce right in there, and vertical jigging. And I was catching catfish. I was catching some walleyes in practice. But I decided to put on a rattle on my jig, and I lowered it down, and because the water was kind of churned up then, and I just kept catching fish, one after another. And I had another guy with me in practice, and he had the regular jig, and I says, "Hey, put one of these rattles on your jig," and he did. He immediately started catching, like, I was catching 8 to his 1, and then he immediately started catching as many fish as I was. But I got to say that rattle on the jig definitely did as far as catching fish and numbers and going through fish, because we had a slot limit there, and you had to get as close. I think it was like 2 over 18, and you had to be under 18 for your 4 others. I think we weighed 6 fish or something like that. Well, it's a lot of years ago, 2001. So it was a matter of going through fish. And there was other guys that came by me doing the same program as I was. They might have been pulling bottom bouncers or something like that, but I was just putting on a clinic as far as how many fish I was catching. I couldn't believe it. The pattern kept all 3 days of the Derby, and wound up winning. And not by a lot, a couple pounds, I think, but each day I was able to, gain a little bit because of those smaller fish. And then you get 2 over. 2 over back then was, like a 19 or a 20 incher. That's all they were. It might have even been 19 inches and smaller. I'm not sure. I don't remember, but that rattle made a big difference. And my success, I got to contribute that to, that little rattle there, because it proved it in practice. But I've never been able to prove it since.
Is that something, as far as your whole career, that you can pride yourself on, is the little adjustments to change, to change the outcome?
Well, I think guys are fishing a lot different now, especially with the forward-facing sonar. They're not so much fishing for a limit of fish. They're going and fishing areas, 2-3 different areas, and they're just targeting these bigger fish, with the forward-facing. So it has changed fishing a lot. But what I used to do is go for my limit, and then maybe I would get a nice fish, an upgrade or something that was over the slot limit or something, and throw that in there. And when I would find a spot, I wouldn't beat them up either, because if you catch them, they're probably not going to bite in a tournament. But I have caught the same fish that I caught in practice in the tournament, and in practice, I've caught the same fish the same day on the other side of the river. So they do bite again, but most of the time I would say they're not, they're going to freak out and maybe leave the area, what the heck just happened. So I wouldn't beat them up. I'd catch a few fish, so I didn't really know the potential of my spots. And then you just take that program elsewhere, in the lake or the reservoir, and kind of duplicate it if you can. And then paying attention where, why are these fish here? Is there potentially bigger fish here because there's deeper water right here? I always went to those spots first where, this has got a nice deep, washout from the outside bend of the river. And, this creek arm, like in the championship, went up this creek arm. So this is going to be a concentration where not only is a key area, but it's going to be cleaner bottom. There's more current there at given times when the current's up. So it's going to keep that bottom cleaner, probably rockier there too. Hold more bait fish, crayfish, whatever they may be eating down there.
Sure.
So,
now talk to me about the Great Outdoor Games, the ESPN Great Outdoor Games. I remember watching that on TV.
Yeah.
I remember, for me, that was kind of right around those years is when I really started paying attention a lot. Obviously, my dad was traveling and fishing. 2004. So that was 2003, I believe. 2003, I think.
Yeah, I still have a shirt. I could go look at it, but
yeah,
it's right around there. Yeah,
I know it was. Mr. Ploutz won the PWT championship that year. The year after, my dad made it into the championship in the Keweenaw. I remember distinctly watching you on TV Talk about who you got paired up with. Talk about the format of the tournament, because that's just really, really special, and it's not something that they do anymore. And I kind of wish it was something they did more often. It'd be really cool to get some of the National Walleye Tour guys paired up with like the Bassmaster Elite Series or the MLF guys.
Yeah, it was really cool. I wound up getting paired up with Denny Brower, which was pretty cool. What a great guy he is. Especially, he's a good fisherman. He knows his stuff about bass fishing, that's for sure, as far as flipping and making the right calls, throwing fish back, the bass wise. But yeah, he didn't give me much time to pre-fish my walleyes in practice either.
Hey guys, today's show is brought to you by Walleye Nation Creations, lures built by anglers for anglers. From the death jig to crankbaits that drive big walleyes crazy, they've got the tools to help you land your next trophy. Make sure to gear up at WalleyeNationCreations.com.
I hope he sees this someday. But anyways,
if Denny Brower's watching watching this podcast, that
might.
would be a dream come true. It really would be.
Yeah, but fishing with him was pretty cool. They said there was more cameras there than the Super Bowl, as far as ESPN, the Great Outdoor Games. But they did interviews with us. They had these cameras on these big booms that came down. It was quite the experience. It was definitely about the anglers and promoting the sport. It was neat mingling with everybody there, and we wound up winning it, like you said. But we were able to weigh 3 bass and 3 walleyes. We could catch 5 bass, and then we would throw 2 back, or 2 walleyes back, 3 and 3. So the first day we probably went through, I don't know how many bass, probably 18 to 25 bass. And we were probably at number 18, and he didn't keep any bass yet. I'm like, we better start keeping these things. And he goes, oh, no, there's bigger ones in here. Well, yeah, sure. We had like a 4.5, 5 pound average for our 3 bass by the end of the day. But we had 4 bass. We wound up going walleye fishing after we had our 4 bass that we wanted to keep. And I was trolling a hump, and I'll never forget this because we're trolling lead core, and Denny goes, what is this stuff we're doing here? So we're trolling lead core across this rock hump, and boom, the rod goes off, and I said, I hand him the rod out of the rod holder. And I said, just reel steady, just keep reeling steady. And all of a sudden, this fish comes out of the water back there. And I had, 3, 4 colors out. So it was back there quite a ways. And I'm like, that's a smallmouth. So I net it for him. And it's bigger than our largemouth for our 3rd fish. So we throw it in the live well for our 5th bass. I says, we're supposed to be catching walleyes. You're cutting into my walleye time here, Denny. But anyways, make a long story short, we caught our 3 walleyes. We did end up catching 4, and we were in first place after the first day there. We did pretty good. And we went out the second day because it was a 2-day event, and we did get our bass, and we caught 1 walleye, had another one right up to the boat, like 2 foot from the net, and it came off. So we wound up with 3 bass and 1 walleye, but we still won it. So that was pretty exciting, fishing with Denny.
Yeah, that's as cutthroat of a competitor as anybody, I think, in fishing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When we were practicing, he goes, we're catching we're going to bend our hooks in. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea. And he goes, leave your hook out, you don't have to bend yours. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and I love jig fishing, that's my forte as far as walleye fishing. And I said, this is a really nice bass I got on here, Denny. It's probably 5 pounds. He goes, you want me to shake it off? He goes, no, you can catch it. Well, it was 5 pounds. We caught it in the boat. And he goes, hey, Mike, bend your hook in, please. So he was getting a little confidence in me then, after seeing that, making the call and everything.
Yeah, that was a pretty special time in the sport. I mean, you had Gerald Swindle and Kevin Van Dam and Ike Anelli and Denny and yourself, Dan Ploutz, Keith Cavallas, Billy Ortiz, I think was the other one that I can remember. Just I mean, the top of the top guys, as far as the PWT and bass is concerned, fishing a tournament to help promote the sport. It is not something you see anymore. There is not as much promotion for the sport. There's a lot of people that complain about it and tear it down.
Oh yeah,
a lot of negativity, and I just, it's something I wish the world could get back to, is a little bit of positivity and a little bit of love for the sport.
Yeah, back in the Great Outdoor Game days, the cameras, just everybody that was involved, the sponsorships, back to the 2001 championship or any other championship we would go to these things, and the sponsors would have booths set up at, whether it be at a gym, at a school, or at the facility under a big tent. I mean, there's thousands of dollars spent on setting up these displays for the sponsors. And then we would come home, the back of my pickup truck would be literally filled to the gill with product that these sponsors would just give us to get out there and try. Hey, try this. And also they were very, very willing to work with us as far as sponsorships, as far as cash and, retainer fees and, what we could do to promote it, during our tournament hours, or, when we get TV time. So a lot has changed. And I think a lot of it is social media. Guys just knowing too much on social media. I might be wrong, but I don't know.
I don't know. I just think it's a different way to promote things, and it's so much easier to promote. Back in the day, nobody knew. There weren't phones. You weren't sending pictures of baits, and
right.
I mean, the crazy thing about walleye fishing today is that I could not know anything about trolling, and I could go on YouTube and watch a video, and in an hour I could give a presentation on how to troll just based off of somebody else's knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you see in the sport that you think needs to change nowadays?
Geez, the sport has changed with the forward-facing sonar, I do believe, as far as a lot of the way the guys fish. We'll get used to it, though. It's just a new thing. A little expensive, but just a new thing. And then something else will come along, too. Remember the day of the camera, the underwater camera, we'd lower it down. Oh, that's going to wreck fishing. Well, you still got to catch them, and you still got to catch them with the forward-facing sonar and know what they are. If you're casting at carp or sheephead or whatever, suckers down there. But as far as anything changing, I don't know what could change. I mean, there needs to be, I think, more kids-orientated things as far as getting kids involved, get them off the computers, get them off the games, stuff like that, in my eyes. And I had a vision years ago when I was doing this full time, and things were going good. Some of the tournaments we were fishing for $250,000 for first place. And, RCL tournament was Glorvigan won that one. That was out of Green Bay there. That was big money. I mean, the sky's the limit when you're fishing for that kind of money, just like the Bassmaster stuff. But I had visions. I have some property across the street from my house here, and I was going to dig some ponds and put a whole walkway, and say when I was going to retire from fishing, but pretty much I have already. Not retired, but just I can't afford it anymore. I was going to do like a pond with a couple different ponds with current and a little creek in there for spawning fish maybe, and then have kids seminars, have the kids come out for the weekend and teach them how to fish, teach them how to, use slip bobbers, teach them how to jig, stuff like that, right, on my property here. So that was a vision, but that's gone now.
Yeah, the world costs a lot of money nowadays, doesn't it?
Oh, geez, yeah. Everything's so expensive.
That's the hard. I truly think that's the hardest part about fishing tournaments nowadays. I just, and I appreciate the heck out of all the sponsors of the show, my personal sponsors, etc. But it's a small, very tight-knit kind of a market as far as the fishing world, and there's a lot of there's a whole bunch of, or a handful of guys that get a lot of the money, There's a whole pile of guys that don't get any of the money, and
yeah,
it makes it tough.
it's changed a lot. That's for sure. But there's some good sticks out there. That's for sure. I watched the tournament weigh-ins, and holy cow, he did good. And he's always up there. So yeah, pretty impressive.
When you pull up to a new body of water, Mike, what is your thought process as far as breaking down a body of water?
Just get out in the water. Time of year, maybe you got to pay attention, real close attention to water temperature. That's a big key. If it's a river system, probably going to look, tributary creeks coming in where they might be spawning or have spawned, and then relating to flats after that. If it's a lake, I'm going to probably find the warmest water in the bays. Maybe try to find some weed growth coming up. That's a real key in the springtime. Maybe, troll some spinners across that if it's only a foot high or something right there. Or, even go as far as casting beetle spins. I've won a lot of money on beetle spins. And, that's an overlooked lure.
That's incredibly overlooked.
Yeah. I know the guys that I've worked with through the years, tournament fishing, there's a handful of us that kind of hung together the whole time, and we'd share rooms and share information, and it was fun. Look forward to that. And then all the guys that I did work with, we all talk still, and we're like best friends almost. Like we could go right back at it. I loved it. I got the drive to go back at it, especially with all this new stuff coming out. I want to go use it. I want to go learn it. And my eyes might not like it because it's hard to see the screen sometimes, but whatever.
Oh, you just need a bigger screen.
Yeah, like a 32-inch or something, right? But just paying attention to attacking a new body of water, just paying attention to small details and doing some research before you get there, looking at maps, maybe going to the bait shop, because I didn't know a lot of people. We didn't know a lot of people at these tournament sites. We just have to go figure it out ourselves, So, yeah, it's all good.
Who's the best angler you've ever traveled with?
I can't name one. I travel with quite a few. Quite a few good guys.
That's a political answer if I've ever heard one.
It is. Yeah, it is.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Who are some of the guys that you used to travel with, Mike?
I travel with Martin a little bit there. Ross Grothy. He moved out of Minnesota. He's over in North Dakota now. Yeah. There's a couple other guys that you wouldn't know. They kind of they kind of quit in between. Mark Broombaugh, he's a good angler. I met him in 1992, I think, and we'd still go and fish a tournament. I fished MWC tournaments with him. He's a riot. He's a good troller, and a lot of times when we're practicing for tournaments, whether it be on the Missouri River or Leech Lake or wherever, Walker, whatever, we'd come back and we have the same theory of what we figured out for the day, because back then our phones wouldn't work, when we were up north or out west. So we'd have to communicate that evening when we get in. So, yeah, he was a good stick, or he still is, should I say. Well, he picked up a bunch of more property because he's a farmer, so that's taking up a lot of his time.
Sure.
Yep. And then Scott Duncan too. Last few years, he won Brimley. It was a AIM tournament, I believe. Yeah, up there. That was an all cash tournament. They gave us our winnings. He took first. Oh, and Marianne Husky, we worked with her too. Scott took first, she took second, and I took fourth in that tournament, I believe. And they handed us our winnings. Yeah, they handed us our winnings on a plate about this big, and all the $20 bills were all taped together in $100 bills. I think Scott won like $100,000 or something like that. And that was $10,000 in cashing on a plate. It was pretty cool stuff back in the day. I wish it would get back to there.
Yeah, I wish it would too, and I'm not sure how we can make it get back to that point.
Yeah, it's gonna be
That's
tough.
tough. That's tough. So back in those days, early 2000. I mean, you had you won on Bull Shoals in 2004. You 2001 champion. You had 37 PWT top tens. You had a run that was as good as anybody else's run in the PWT. Is there something that you attribute that to? Is there a characteristic of yourself that you just think, yeah, I'm stubborn, or I'm just the confidence that, hey, this is why this happened?
Just paying attention to small details, I think. Just relating to the fish, where the bigger fish are going to relate to, and why are they there? Why is that fish? Why did I catch this fish in practice right here? And is there going to be more nice fish like the one that I just caught in practice? And relating to that, maybe a deeper break line, closer to deeper water, maybe a warm bay. The weeds are just coming up. Well, there's just going to be more fish moving in there into that bay after spawn, springtime. So just paying attention to those kind of details and knowing the structure that you're fishing. That's for sure. Trying to learn it in practice and not beat it up too much.
Is there any mistakes that you see some of the younger guys making a lot these days that you go, oh, man, that's just, you guys got to get better to clean that up?
Not really. I don't know what they're doing on the water, as far as practice and stuff. I would rather, I made several runs in my day where I just made one a couple of years ago up in Green Bay, 90 some miles. I don't know what I'm doing that for, but I did.
I made the run too. It was awful.
Yeah. The first day especially. Yeah. But anyways, back in the day, 120 miles was a lot back then. Now with our bigger boats,
This episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Lake Effect Lures, the tackle that turns every cast into a catch. Built for serious anglers, tested on real fish, and proven to get bites when nothing else will. Get yours at lakeeffectlures.com.
The motors are crazy, but back then I made a run from where the heck was it? Was it Itasca to Lake? Right down to Pier.
Oh, that's a 60-mile run.
Yeah, it was more than that, I think. It took me 3 hours to get there. But anyways, we hauled all of our gas back then in the boat in cans. And I think there's a Dakota Mart in Pier, isn't there? Something like a bigger thing, like a Gander, the old Gander Mountains or Bass Pro. But anyways, we bought all the gas cans there, just regular gas cans. So all that I took with me down there was a couple fishing rods and a little box of jigs and my live bait and my fat heads and away I went. And when I was sitting there fishing, I was actually filling up the fuel in the boat, and to save time because we had only an hour to fish. But I wound up taking second in the tournament, and after the tournament was over, a few months later, I noticed my boat was like real rattly. So I'm looking in the bottom, and the fiberglass was starting to come apart. Well, we had spilled some gas in it. I'm not going to say what kind of boat it was, but spilling the gas in the bottom of the boat by accident, not on purpose, kind of wrecked that boat a little bit. So needless to say, the PWT back then put a gas tank rule in effect that we can't carry our own gas. So we wrecked the gas rule. But
they call that the Mike Gofron rule. That's fantastic.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there was several other boats doing the same thing I was doing. And the tournament was one down there too, so that was quite the experience in the smaller, 18-foot boats running that far. But it was fun. Young back then. Yeah.
So when you look back on your 30 plus, years of fishing professionally, do you think the camaraderie is really special? Is that what you miss most, or do you miss being really competitive and just going out there and beating people down? Because you did a lot of that.
I miss both really. Sam Anderson was another one I did work with, and his father too, and he had passed at an early age when, he was really close to all of us, and he would always, look out for us, and we'd look out for him. And boy, we lost a good guy there. But yeah, I miss, hanging out with the guys and going to dinner after we get in from practice, and the competition. Towards the end when I was still doing it full time, it was like, man, this practice is just dragging on for 5 days or 6 days when we get there, because knowledge was building up, and we would go back to these same bodies of water and uh, fish sometimes the same areas or do the same thing. So it's like you're there for 2-3 days and you pretty much got a plan down and what these fish are going to do. And it got kind of boring. Like, let's get the derby on the road here, where towards the end I was practicing less because I was more efficient, rather than being there, 5 days, 6 days prior to the tournament. Because in a week's time, the fish change everywhere. I don't care where you're at, unless you're on Lake Erie. Fish do move around there too, but you're always going to have fish in Lake Erie. But a week's time goes by, a lot changes in that week's time. So you got to predict where they're going to go, and if you can figure them out, call me collect. Because they're tough to figure out sometimes, and they're very humbling.
Yeah, I've been humbled enough. I'd like to not be humbled a few times this year. Do you have any moments like early on in your career that like NFL players like call it a welcome to the NFL moment? Like, this is the I belong here moment kind of for you? Do you have any of those?
I did fish. I came back in '92. I fished quite a few tournaments before that. In 91, 92, I won the Illinois River MWC, which was pretty big accomplishment back then. But I took a year off. Financially, I just was like, I can't do this. So worked my butt off, got a bunch of money in the bank, just worked. Kind of was pissed off because I wasn't fishing in a way, because, looking at the weigh in and looking, I know where he fished, because I just talked to him yesterday, and God, I could have done good there, but I missed it when I took the year off, and then I came back, and that's when I really put my head to the grindstone and just focused, and I was really focused on everything. Where I'd come home, I'd get ready, I built a fishing box for my truck, got all organized there. You got to be organized. You can't just throw your stuff in the truck and go. And a lot of times I would do that before this because I was so busy with work trying to make ends meet here. Because it wasn't easy back then either. Motels, and you're leaving a tournament in Lake of the Woods and you're driving all the way to Saginaw Bay that same day. So 12, 15 tournaments throughout the season is a lot with the practice and everything, and motel bills, gas bills. So the guys know about that kind of stuff right now, I'm sure, because that's probably 3 times as much as when I ran. So, yeah.
Is there anybody you looked up to on the water? Is there any guys like Gary Roach or
Gary, all the time,
or
L. Linder, when I was getting into it, yep. And L. Linder's always said that. As a matter of fact, my book, he wrote a little quote down there, about me. As far as practicing, he's going to be one of the best. And before I was one of the better anglers out there. But yeah, I looked up to them guys. That's for sure. Gary was one of the anglers, and Mike McClellan back in the day, from out west there. Yeah, a lot of them guys.
What did it mean to compete against those guys when you finally made the big stage?
I kind of felt intimidated at first with these guys until I got to know them a little bit. And still, still do, because they're older than you, and I was brought up to respect your elders. So I was always below them in my eyes as far as talking to them and stuff like that. But you get to know them on the circuit and hang out with them maybe at the championship dinner that they would have, and and then the party afterwards, the awards ceremony and all that stuff afterwards. It was a good time. And back then we had to qualify to be able just to fish. It wasn't just pay your money and you become a pro. You had to qualify to fish the 120 pro spot that the PWT had. So everybody was driving for that 120 spot, to make the next year. Otherwise, you have to requalify.
Yeah, let's talk about that quick because we don't have that anymore. Obviously, the Elite Series does with Bassmaster.
Yeah,
but you can get relegated. You could lose your eligibility to fish the tour.
Yes.
Back then.
Yep, and everything in my contracts back then were always you had to fish a circuit that you could qualify for a championship. And the championship was not a paid championship. It was, our room and bar was paid for, everything. Our meals were paid for. The dinner afterwards, the ceremony was paid for. It was quite the show to go to and to make, and to qualify for that, and guys are getting nervous, and you look up to people as Gary Parsons and Keith Cavias. And in 2001, I was almost not going to make the championship, and Keith Cavias came up to me in Dunkirk, New York, and he says, "Hey, Mike, you need a couple fish to weigh tomorrow to make the championship," because he was Mr. Numbers. He knew exactly what was going on as far as what you needed to make the championships and whatever. So he goes, "Yeah, you need like 16, 18 pounds." And he goes, "Hey, if take it with a grain of salt, but take this lure here with 10-pound fire line and let it out X amount of feet." I believe it was a thunder stick, but something like 300 feet or something. So I did that. He told me to put a weight on there too. So I had that rod out, put the fire line out there. It was straight fire line, and the rod went off, and it was an 8-pound fish. And I caught another 6-pounder on that, and I wound up catching enough fish myself that day. But just to show you the respect that these guys had for each other, to come up to me and say, "Hey, if this helps you out, take it with a grain of salt. Try this." So, yeah. And that same year, that's when I won the championship, 2001.
Man.
So,
that's
that's a pretty cool story in a way.
That's a really cool story. That's not something you don't see that anymore.
No.
One, because not a lot of guys troll anymore, but two, I just think groups are very tight knit. Not that guys dislike each other. I don't think there's nearly as much disdain on the water as there is on like places like social media. But I think that, this episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Thunderhook Fly Ins, the premium fly-in fishing destination in Ontario, Canada. Trophy walleyes, giant pike, and remote wilderness adventures await. Book your trip now at thunderhook.com. Things are a little more hush-hush. I don't see somebody just saying, "Hey, get over here. I got something that can really help you."
Yeah. He didn't tell me area or anything like that. He just said, "If you want to try it, try it." So I went back to the motel room and started spooling up a bunch of fire line and one rod at least, and set it up the way he told me to, and it caught some fish. But I did catch other fish throughout the day that would have got me in too. So, but he, I didn't know that. But yeah.
Hey, it led you to a championship. You can't complain about that.
Yes, it did. Yeah, it was cool. The year before, I think I took second, and we were in Bismarck. And this is a story too. I think Ron Seeloff won that year. They would parade us around the arena because it was an ice arena.
Yep.
And this, the fans were all up there behind the glass. Well, when they were parading us around, they dropped me off on the stage. This was the year I won. And my boat was getting pulled out of the arena, and all of a sudden I hear this boom, crash, boom. And I looked, and my boat was knocking all this stuff over. The guy cut too close to the support on the whatever it was, and so it kind of distracted me a little bit. And the boat ended up getting totaled from that accident in the arena there. So, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely won a new one. I'm pretty sure it sat in our driveway for a little while. I'm pretty sure my dad bought the one you won.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah, that's right.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sat in our yard for a little while.
Yeah, I think I won a championship up in Winnebagosh for the AIM. And I won a boat there also. And John Lass has got that, and he's got that up in Big Bay. And he still has it.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Yeah, still running good.
What's next for Mr. Mike Gofron as far as tournaments? I know you like to fish WWA with your son Kyle. You guys have had a lot of success. You guys are really dangerous on that local tour.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. You know, my boy was a basketball player. So was my daughter, Lindsay, and Kyle. And Tammy and I, my wife, would follow him around, you know, with these traveling leagues and then high school leagues and private leagues. And, you know, between getting home from the tournament, okay, we got to go here. And then all of a sudden, Tammy's in Florida playing basketball with them or whatever, you know, with Lindsay or Kyle. But yeah, it was fun doing all that with the kids. But I never really got a chance to fish with Kyle and, you know, teach him stuff and show him, hopefully, you know, he catches on. So we finally started fishing a few of the chain tournaments here. I says, I got the weekend free, Kyle. I can make it free from work. And okay, let's fish it. And he started, you know, what kind of knot do I got to tie, Dad? You know, and he's like, I'm like, holy cow. I realized this kid, he's got a lot of learning to do. But as of right now, he can pretty much outfish me in the boat. He has really become a jig fisherman like I can't believe. It's like, hey, Dad, I just missed one right there. So I pitch right into that same spot, and then sure enough, there's a walleye there. You know, so he does a lot of our pre-fishing for us out here on the chain when we do be able to get out. So the confidence in him is great. You know, I want to get him out in some AIM tournaments maybe or some MWC tournaments to fish with him, different bodies of water. But he's really got a knack for it, that's for sure. And it's fun fishing with him.
Yeah, that's as a kid, I got to fish a few tournaments with my dad. It was special, and we fished one event, and it's an event that I run every year. We took second last year. We probably should have won. I may have lost a giant late in the day. But it's just the time on the water with my dad is pretty special because it's not something we get a lot of anymore. You know, life doesn't slow down ever.
No, it seems like it's busier.
The memories are cherished for sure.
Yep. Yeah, he's coming along pretty good.
That's pretty cool. You guys better win. Are you guys going to the Sioux for the NTC?
I don't think so. He's got a township job, so time off for him is, you know, kind of tough. So I'd love to bring him there. He'd learn a lot of different techniques and whatnot there. But yeah, and I got to work too because that's my busy time of year too here with my excavating business. So
Mike, give me the best tip that you could think of that somebody has given you over the years, over your time on tour.
Probably L. Linder.
Ooh.
He says, perfect practice makes perfect fishing.
Can you break that down for me, what that means to you?
Well, I can break it down for an example.
Perfect.
There was a tournament on Saginaw Bay. We were coming out of the river, and it was late in the day from practice, and I was coming in the mouth of the river. Mouth of the rivers usually hold some type of fish, you know. So I'm graphing along the break lines and looking. I spot some fish, so I'm going to set up and And this, I believe it was an AIM tournament because it was all artificial. And so I have a, I don't know, 1/8 quarter-ounce jig on, and it had a smaller hook on it. So I had a 3-inch gulp minnow that I put down there. And I'm like, man, this hook is way too small. But, I'm just in practice here, and, so be it. And it's probably like 6:30 at night. So I want to get it. I'm kind of beat up from the waves out on the lake. So I'm come in. I set up. I don't make a vertical drift down the mouth of the river there. There's a couple little humps there. So I'm going along. Boom! I get a nice thunk. Missed him. Got another one. Nice thunk. Missed him again. But that one was definitely not a sheephead. It was, golly, that felt like a walleye. Well, lo and behold, I never went back to that spot because I just didn't have the time to. And I was taking off on day one, and Tommy Scarless pulled right into where I had those fish on right there. Well, he wound up winning the tournament right there. Just to say that if I would have caught a walleye there and verified that it was a walleye, or just seen it, I would have probably, because it was a pretty tough bite during this tournament. In perfect practice, it wasn't perfect practice because I should have put a different style jig on there with a bigger hook on there. That's why I missed the fish, because the hook was barely sticking out. So that bit me in the ass.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I'd say so.
Yeah, but that's just a little example. Time on the water, learning the body of water, eliminating, not so much finding more spots, just eliminating areas and just saying, okay, that portion of the lake, I'm not going to probably go back there, after 2 days of practice or whatever. I'm going to kind of concentrate on this area. It's all about elimination.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And then it's just about execution on Derby Day, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no. And if you know what the bite is like, if it's a tougher bite, you're going to probably stay in an area longer. Even if you're not catching nothing, you're going to kind of work that area, learn that area more, because you can't really learn it in practice because you don't want to catch all the fish. So you're going to learn that piece of structure wherever the fish are hanging out during the Derby, and maybe you're going to execute some more and expand your area. Side imaging. There was a tournament where in Leech Lake, I remember that I was fishing this rock hump, and my side imaging, I saw another rock hump over there, and I go, look at all the fish on that thing. So I just kind of drifted over that way with my bottom bouncers and wailed on the fish there. I think the fish from my hump moved over to that hump, but it wasn't a known hump on the map. So, it wasn't pressured from local people or whoever, the tournament guys. So just expanding your areas, paying attention.
This episode of the Walleye Files is brought to you by Striker Brands, built to keep you warm, dry, and fishing longer. From ice to open water, their gear handles whatever Mother Nature throws at you. Find yours at strikerbrands.com. Go early, go late, and go prepared. I was going to say, you went away for a second. I'm like, oh, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, it was Broombach calling. Probably about Lake Erie. He might head over there next week, too.
That's awesome. That's going to be a great fight, guys. Mike is going to go. I think you say you're going to film with Mr. Kimos?
Yeah, I'm going to tag along and see if he needs any help. We got a couple rooms reserved over there right now for, I think, travel. He says he wants to travel on Tuesday. I got a couple buddies from the area here that are going to travel too with us. So we'll see. We'll maybe catch some fish and cook some fish up in the evening time and have a good time. Have a couple Miller Lights, and I haven't seen Tommy in a few years, so it'll be fun.
That'll be a great time. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, before we close this out, give me some life advice for anybody. One little piece of life advice in your eyes.
Oh, I don't know. If you're going to go fish these tournaments, make sure you're organized. Time on the water is very crucial. Minutes go by, and like I always tell my guy in the boat, get that crawler on there. I was always watching. The faster you can do that, because 1 minute adds up to 5 minutes, and 5 minutes adds up to a half hour, and all of a sudden you're like an hour. So I realize there's a lot of the fishing that we're doing now is different, and I never thought I'd be doing it the way I do it and just sit there for a little while with the forward facing. But back in the day, that's the way I thought. More efficient. Have when you're sitting home in the wintertime and you're gonna go fish a couple tournaments, MWC. I don't care if they're little tournaments, club tournaments. Tie up some spinners or pour up some jigs. Be ready. Sharpen your hooks when you get out there on the water. It's all gonna add up to putting fish in the boat.
I love it. That's fantastic. Mike, I hope to see you at least one National Walleye Tour event this year. I'd love to see you.
Yeah.
You come up. Thank you so much for being here and being part of this. It's really special to me.
Okay.
And I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you later.